There we go. Welcome in, YouTube. Everybody say hi.
YouTube.
Everyone's back at home base this week.
Hey.
You guys want to get right into it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. We're live streaming. We've got faces. We don't have a web browser. One second. Gabango. Okay. There we go. Nice. Off we go.
Actually, I'm on Yahoo right now, and I just found a article. 250 most revealing truth or dare questions ever.
Oh my god.
So if you want, we can pick a few random numbers, and ask some of these.
Some of those are going to be, yeah. I mean, it's like we're not going to be able to take a dare, but like we're at an age where peer pressure doesn't really work. So
Where do most of your embarrassing odors come from?
I
My balls.
am not embarrassed by any of my odors. I'm proud. What kind of a weird question is that? Like, everyone else knows the answer to that question. Like, there's no reason to cause someone to, like, say it. Like, my wife knows the smells that come out of my butt. That's why we're married.
Would you date your high school crush today?
I mean, I'm married, so no.
Well, no. Obviously for me, too.
Yeah.
She's still attractive. But she has like 4 kids. She's married, happily.
All right.
All right.
If you want to, I can keep this up. And if not, no big.
Yeah, we can throw a few on there. It's fine. Who's ready? Oh, you guys look ready. Oh, man, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Do we sound good? Does everybody sound okay?
You're a little echoey.
I am.
Yeah. Maybe you should...
How
Maybe...
do I sound?
Brian, you sound good.
Good. Let's just hope I actually don't cut off.
What about now?
It sounds like you're on your... like a different mic. It sounds like you're not even on that mic.
It sounds like you're in space.
Oh. How about now?
Yep. There we go.
That was.
All right, let's get into it.
Mike. Thanks for checking. Meow.
Oh, my
What?
God. Let's just get this over with. Meow.
Meow.
What is going on, sport fans? Welcome into episode 35 of the P Cubed podcast. My name is Thomas Barrett, and I am here with my buddies Nate Hull and Brian Danello. We're so glad that you're here hanging out with us while we have our weekly look at the Seattle sports landscape. We're just 3 idiots having a chat, and we need your help to keep us in line, so help out. Send your feedback in. You can send us an email, p3sportspod@gmail.com. You can find the pod on Apple, Spotify, and iHeart. You can tweet us at P3SportsPod, or you can join us live on YouTube while we record at P3SportsPod on YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's free and easy. It helps us out, and you can be notified when we go live or when we post up the weekly pod. With all that housekeeping out of the way, grab a bev and buckle up. Nate, what's the going on we have?
That's funny. Hey, everybody. Back in home turf. We hopefully sound a lot better than last week. We had some technical difficulties in playing away games, so
It's always tough when you don't have your home setup going.
yeah. We're going to do Around the Sound, talk a little Kraken, had some stuff happen today. Mariners and their road trip. Seattle Sounders and their woeful week. Seattle Storm, hit Sons of Pitches. We'll hit some sportspredictions.net. Go with Hey, What You Gots? And a Would You Rather? And then we'll end it with some closing questions. I think Brian has some interesting closing questions this week. So, what's cracking with the Kraken?
Nate, you just always love saying that, don't you?
Probably the last one of the year, I think.
No, next week we'll talk a little draft stuff because the draft
yeah,
is
probably, right.
the draft is this week. It's
Yep.
on Wednesday. I think the Kraken are picking right around number 20, somewhere around there. And then I know we mentioned last week they have 3 second-round picks, so 4 picks in the top 2 rounds. Chance to get a few good players.
You buried the lead, Brian.
Hey, you brought up it was organic, but
Oh,
yes,
okay.
we also had the Coachella Valley Firebirds in Game 7 of the Calder Cup Trophy. I think it's Calder Cup. Anyways, in the championship of minor league hockey, they were playing the Hershey Bears, and they lost Game 7 in overtime.
Overtime.
Yep, they were actually ahead 2-0.
Mm.
The game was actually on the radio. I was listening to it while driving back from softball, I think, last Wednesday, and yeah, it was pretty fun to listen to. All those minor league hockey and minor league baseball announcers sound the exact same, which is kind of funny to me. But it was a good game. We were up 2-0, and then gave up 2 goals in the second period, tied at 2. No goals were scored in the third, and then Hershey won it in overtime. Still a successful season for their inaugural season, and plenty to look forward to moving forward.
A lot
Yeah.
of fun with local tied teams this year.
It's so great to, continue to establish a winning culture throughout the organization as well. It's really, really good.
Yeah, and I heard Everett Fitzhugh, who's the voice of the Kraken, on the radio the day after Coachella Valley's game, and he was saying, "Man, I was at a bar, and there were people who were looking for the minor league hockey game to watch on TV up here in Seattle.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's starting to take hold, man."
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. They did a really, really great job.
Yeah, so like Brian mentioned, the draft it's a 2-night event. Starts this Wednesday. Kraken have 1 pick on the first night, 20th overall, and then they've got 3 in the second and a few as the draft goes on. So hopefully this time next week we can talk about some new players. Also, free agency kicks off on Saturday, so we could have a lot of news to discuss next week.
And we found out tonight, we're recording this on Monday night, that Matty Beniers won Rookie of the Year, which is pretty cool. It's a really nice honor.
Did that just... I thought all the awards and stuff got announced previously.
Mm-mm.
It was just announced about an hour ago.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Yeah, pretty awesome.
Did the Mariners get a draft pick for that, or...
No. The Kraken?
I doubt it.
I doubt it either. Yeah. I think it's normal for I don't know, we'll cut this out. Seattle Mariners. They were on the road. They went to New York and to Baltimore, and they went 2-4. Probably not what we needed. And they had 2 games, and this is why they averaged 5 runs a game. They had 2 games where they scored 10 plus runs, and then the other games they were just dog shit.
It was really interesting too. The first 2 games in New York were awful. The second game in particular, they weren't competitive. It was hard to watch, and it was almost felt like another low point. Obviously, even though the record isn't reflecting that poorly. And then, they scored I think 10 in the third game in New York and 13 in the first night in Baltimore, and you're like, okay, they're waking up a little bit. And then they lose the next 2 to a pretty good Baltimore team that's playing pretty well. But yeah, 2-4 is not what you want. You got to start stringing together competitive games, and if you do that, you're gonna win more than you lose. And they're just struggling. An interesting note also: did you guys notice all of the runs that they scored Saturday and Sunday were via the home run? They did not produce with hits a single run.
Yeah.
Weren't most of them on Sunday solo home runs too?
Sunday was just a 2-run shot. They had 3 hits on Sunday.
Okay, then Saturday there was one game where I think 4 solo home runs or something like that.
Yeah, it's like, great, congratulations, you hit a home run, but if you're not producing runs, you're not gonna win. So it's they continue to struggle a little bit, but the Teo's heating up quite a bit, and he's got the type of bat that can really carry the club. And if he's able to shoulder some of the pressure and some of the load and let the other guys kind of get right, could be a good sign. So
They're playing Washington right now. As we're recording, it's 6-3 Mariners in the bottom of the sixth. J.P. Crawford hit another leadoff home run. So I do like him in the leadoff spot. Like I said, I said that I would have put him at leadoff, and it looks to see like he's doing good things there. Julio has 3 hits today. Suarez has a home run today. So it's they're playing a bad Washington team, and if there's any time to get the bats going, this is the 3 days to do it.
if there's one guy on the club that gives you consistent competitive at bats, it is JP. And so I think it sends a message to the rest of the club having him at 1 instead of 9. He's never going to be an average guy, but he's always got a solid OBP, and he always battles and fights. I personally, I'd so much rather have him at 1 than 9. I think it's fantastic. Even with Julio at 2 and Ty at 3, I'm okay with that. It lets you kind of mix and match behind, some mixture of Teo, Cal, Kelnick, and Gino, depending on the opposing pitcher or who's swinging a hot bat. So I'm kind of settled into the 1, 2, 3. If these guys can continue to put up competitive at bats, I'm pretty happy with those guys. 1, 2, 3. What do you guys think about that?
I love it.
Have you guys looked at the stats lately?
I had those as my top 3. I think I had Julio 3rd, France 2nd, but that was my top 3 coming into the season.
Yeah.
So Thomas, I'm right there with you. I think that is who should be 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, and I think Brian, if from a batting order perspective, I agree with you, but you don't want Julio on the base paths behind Ty because that's going to limit his speed from time to time. So I think having JP in front of him is a little bit better. What were you asking, Nate?
Have you all looked at the stats lately? You know who's leading the team in RBIs?
Shohei Ohtani?
The team.
Yeah, no, it was a joke because Shohei Ohtani is leading every team in every stat.
It's Gino, even with 7 home runs, I guess 8 tonight. Surprising, he's still producing, runs, which is good. Averages come up a little bit. I think him and Teo are, the bright spots right now. Kelnick has seemed to revert to old Kelnick, which is not good. He was swinging a lot of really bad sliders this week.
Yeah, his numbers have
and
really fallen off.
Yeah, I looked at his stats, and it's just a free fall on average over the last month.
Just a quick update on deadline target for the Mariners. So Shohei is leading the Angels in batting average, runs, home runs, RBIs, and stolen bases. Wins, ERA, strikeouts, and WHIP.
Yeah,
Decent
amazing.
player.
Yeah, that's not bad.
I'm going to talk a little bit about Shohei in the Hey What You Got section.
Jesus Christ.
I have one more thing to ask. There were a couple DFAs this week that are curious that might be good fits for the Mariners. Will Myers and Charlie Culberson became available.
I saw the text you sent about Will Myers. I don't really know much about him as a player. What makes him interesting?
He's been fine. I mean, he's struggled this year, but I mean, he's been like a career 255 hitter, something like that. And maybe a change of venue where he just knows that he's the bench player and periodic starter, and maybe he can give some pop from DH. It's worth a shot. I mean, his career batting average is 254. His career OPS is 781. He just has had a bad year battling injuries. He might be interesting. Charlie Culberson's another guy coming off some injuries, but has had not a terrible career. I mean, he's just been a kind of a utility guy. But I mean, I'm kind of just done with AJ Pollock. I know it's money to eat, but
Charlie
try
Culberson
something.
does not move the needle for me
No,
at all.
I mean, does AJ Pollock?
No. But Will Myers would be interesting.
Yeah,
I think, and he does play outfield, right?
first base.
He can spell, Ty France at first. He can spell the outfield, left or right field. Will Myers would be interesting to me. Culberson, no, I don't even want them to even think about that. But
I mean, you see what happened to Aaron Hicks, right? He moved to Baltimore and he's actually playing pretty well.
I think a lot of Aaron Hicks's was a mindset. It's the same thing with someone like Joey Gallo in New York.
Ugh.
There's certain players that just can't play in New York.
He's mashing.
Another one who can't was there was a pitcher a couple years ago, might have been Sonny Gray. For whatever reason,
Mm.
just couldn't do it under the bright lights in New York. And Aaron Hicks, he had some success early, but then, you know, his head got in the way. And I think a change of scenery was definitely good for him. I do think the Mariners need to shake it up uh, with getting rid of Pollock. I completely agree. I don't think Culberson is the answer, though. I think with Culberson, you'll be getting more of the same.
DFAing Pollock doesn't shake it up. Like I agree that they need a shakeup. Pollock doesn't move the needle enough for that to qualify as a shakeup. But
So then what would you do for a shakeup?
that's my thing. Is I don't know. I
mean, the
disagree
Angels
with your
added two
point.
outfielders this week, so I mean they're doing something. They're trying to stay on pace because didn't they have somebody get hurt this last week or something like that?
Who?
No, I think the difference with the Angels is they need to show Otani that they are trying. Like if Otani was here in Seattle and it was the last year of his deal, I think the Mariners would be doing something. The Angels have to prove to Otani that they are trying to get better and trying to make the playoffs this year. Otherwise, he's going to walk. I mean, he's probably going to walk anyways down the street to LA, play for the Dodgers, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's a
Brian,
really good player.
to come back real quick, like I don't have a suggestion because anyone that you're gonna get rid of, is you need bats so bad. What are you gonna do? Get rid of one of them? you know, but I think you could maybe, package one of your arms in the minor leagues with someone like Ty France and go after like a Goldschmidt, right, or something where he's got a year and a half left on his contract, and Ty's a really good player. He's a really important player, but you can live without him, and that's a seismic shift that tells the rest of the club, like, yo, we're not fucking around. But I don't know.
yeah.
Yep. So Mariners right now, like Brian said, they're playing the Nats in the first of three. You've got Thursday off, and then you have the Rays for 3. So you've got 6 games at home prior to a 7-game road trip that leads right into the All-Star break. So this 3-game series against the Nats is their last games against sub-500 teams before the break. So got to do something here.
Seattle Sounders. Well,
I
had 2 games this week. Game on Wednesday, they lost to LAFC, but they gave up a goal in the first minute, and they were absolutely utter dog shit, uninteresting the rest of the game. And I actually turned it off in like the 68th minute. I just couldn't watch it anymore. I just knew that either LAFC was going to score again, or Seattle was just going to not score, because they were not dangerous.
I don't know if it's always like baked into the DNA of the team, but I've been a Sounder fan for a long time, and about a third of the games that I watch on television, I shut off after 30 or 35 minutes because it's clear that it's not worth my time, right? Either they're going to tie, they're going to lose, but like there's absolutely no energy in the game at all. So it's too bad to hear.
Running
they had a midweek
Rodero
turd
out there. I mean, they have to run him out because Christian's gone. But again, like, he gassed out. They did take him out of the LAFC game, but they left him in against Orlando and just had nothing in the tank at the end.
One of the criticisms of the roster last year after the run to the CONCACAF title was that it was aging. And what did you do in the offseason?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. So,
Rui looked dangerous in a couple of times against LAFC, but he wasn't available against Orlando because his dad passed away, which is sad to hear.
Oh, that's too bad.
So then they came back and played Orlando at home, and they had a 0-0 draw. Again, no Rui, no Christian, no Morris. And again, they just looked uninteresting at times. There were flurries in the game from probably like the 10th minute until halftime, and then coming right out at half. But other than that, there was nothing. It really should have been 2-2. There were some really fantastic saves. There were some really blown chances. Rusnak skied one over the net. One of their players had an open goal and just whiffed it. And so there really should have been some goals. So like the draw probably would have been a draw anyways. Orlando's very, very good on the road. But again, you know, they pumped up on social media that they had a clean sheet, but they didn't put any goals on the board again.
Yeah.
And at the end, Abear and Lodero looked gassed and were not giving any very little effort, which was disappointing to watch. So I mean, we're still out. Morris and Roldan, they'll be sitting on the bench for U.S. men's national team, which is pretty great because they're on the B squad, and that sucks for the Sounders. But
it's a really
you
interesting
gotta get
year.
through these games.
It's a really interesting year in MLS. I'm just looking at the table right now. Cincinnati's way out to a lead on the East, which is pretty impressive. But out of the 29 teams in the league, 24 of them are between 1 and 2 points per game. So it's so common in MLS to see, a few teams at the top and then a bunch of teams in the middle, but there's no team at the top this year. Everyone's right in the middle. The Sounders, for all of their floundering, please don't call them the Flounders, are third in the West.
Yeah.
8, 7, and 5. It's pathetic. You have 8 wins and 7 losses, and you're in third place. Pretty bad.
Really quick, I actually watched the Gold Cup game between the United States and Jamaica, and Christian Roldan came on as a sub, I think, right around the
Most likely.
65-minute mark. And man, when he came on, that team seemed to play so much better. So I almost wonder if
He's
they're
such a good player, man. It doesn't matter what level he plays at. He's consistently one of the top 3 players in the field.
he just was creating chances for Team USA. He was putting pressure on Jamaica, and eventually the United States got the equalizer and tied it. They did not play well. I mean, even I know that, and I know next to nothing about soccer. So they've got to make some adjustments, and maybe that means putting Christian Roldan in the starting lineup. Jordan Morris did start, and he did nothing.
Yeah, I mean, he
So-
played 18 minutes in the previous 3 matches. Like, he's just not game fit. Christian, in the game and 20 minutes he played before he was sent out on international duty, was the only one interesting for the Sounders in creating chances. And he scored a goal too. So, I mean, like, I don't know. I'm frustrated all around, and they need to be better. They got a game this weekend against Houston, I believe. I'm sorry, I should have looked it up.
News just broke. TFC part ways with Bob Bradley.
Yeah,
Interesting.
doing better than Bob.
Oh, it's one of the most classic lines. Do you know that, Brian? Was it after one of the MLS Cups? Or no,
yeah.
was it post game they're interviewing coaches and players, right? And it's the classic Richard Sherman moment when you catch these competitors like before they've had a chance to like reboot over into media mode. And the interviewer asked Schmetzer like, "Oh, how's it going? How you feeling?" And they had just like, "Oh, maybe it was when he was with LAFC and they beat him in the playoffs." Anyway,
That's what it was. Yeah,
it was a big important game. The Sounders had beaten the team that was managed by Bob Bradley.
to go to the MLS Cup.
And so the interviewer was like, "Oh, how you feeling?" And Schmetzer was like, "I don't know, better than Bob." It's like, oh man, fucking Schmetz.
All right, yeah. So Houston's coming in. They're right behind the Sounders. Sounders need a win. I am not super confident. I'll be at the game, so that'll be fun.
Yeah,
But other than that,
gotta get some points.
Seattle Storm got another win.
Yeah, they did. It was nice to see. They started 0-3. They're 4-6 in their last 10 games. 4-9, still 10th place, second to last in the WNBA. But one bright spot, Jewel Lloyd. We talked about it last week that she's taking way more shots than anybody else on the team, but she's actually leading the league in scoring at about 25.5 points per game.
Wow.
About 2.5 points ahead of the second place player, who just so happens to be Brianna Stewart. So it's interesting there. Jewel Lloyd is the only person on this team that can really create her own shot, and so she's kind of forcing stuff, doing more than she's ever had to do before, and her percentages aren't there. But just with the volume she's shooting, she's leading the league in scoring.
Yeah, nice. Sons of Pitches softball. So I was gone this week.
You missed a wild ride, Nate.
I know. I asked like how the game went, and somebody responded, "We lost 34-8," and I was like, "Ooh."
That seems generous. I think I got home and I told Liz it was 42-6.
And nobody led with that. There was like a little kerfuffle from the other team.
It was well, I mean, there was never really any danger of a kerfuffle with us. It was an umpire who was already in a bad mood at the start of the game, and the other team was just, they were such cocks. Every single one of them, they were such cocks.
They tried to bring in a bottle of scotch. Like, they literally were yelling after Nate Curtis got hit with a line drive. They literally offered him a shot of scotch, and they went out to their car and got the bottle of scotch and brought it into the dugout.
This team plays like 4 games a week, and they're a tournament team.
Yeah,
they're a little bit over leveraged for this league.
Yeah, they had no business playing in Wednesday Beer League. The field we were playing at was like a small field with no fences, and so they were just hitting liners into the outfield, and we were little leaguing, and they were just running the bases. No, but they were playing like cocks. It was really too bad. You know, it's at one point in the first game they were up by like 25 runs, and they were complaining about balls and strikes, and like I was catching in the second game, and at one point the ump muttered under his breath, he just says, "Oh, fuck it, I'm just gonna call strikes." And yeah, it was ugly. At one point the ump, I don't know if he just got too tired of it or if he misinterpreted what someone was saying, but he tossed one of the other players, and then so they all started freaking out and screaming shit at him. And one guy that wasn't even playing, he was a team member, and he was just sitting on the bleachers, started like saying he was gonna beat his ass and all this shit, so he threw him out. And then the guy's like, "Oh, you're gonna do that to me in front of my fucking kids?" It's like, you kind of lost that argument. Yes, I'm gonna do that to you in front of your fucking kids. I felt really bad for the ump. He was like, you could tell that he was having a hard time like not screaming, yelling, and walking up the field, and he should have. If the other team threatens him physically, he should have absolutely called the games and probably forfeited him. So I suspect that he's notified the league. I think we've notified the league. So it's too bad. Wednesdays are for fun, and that was not fun.
Yeah, it really highlights why finding umpires to, you know,
he literally said,
difficult.
He literally said, "This is why you don't have umpires."
Yeah, wow, makes sense.
Yeah,
it's just disappointing to hear. Yeah, we let Aaron know at the league just to check in with the umpire, you know, and just to see what he says. I didn't want to cause any hearsay, but you know, it's disappointing. We're out there to have fun, and there's a lot of really fun teams in this league, even the ones we don't always get along with are still never gone that far. So, you know, that's tough.
Yeah.
Got a couple of games coming up this week against the substandard team, so hopefully we can get a couple wins.
Yeah, we started.
Playoffs are probably out of reach.
We started swinging the sticks a little bit better. I think we plated like 12 runs in the second game, maybe.
I think it was 18-9. Nate, when and where? For all of our fans that want to come watch.
I don't know. I'll have to look it up.
Well, we're playing this week. We're off next week for 4th of July. We're playing the week after, and then playoffs are the week after that. So.
Yep.
And then I'm going to be gone the first couple of weeks of the second season. So.
I'd be surprised if it came around that quick.
No, it starts I think in mid-August, early to mid-August. So I might miss one or two.
Right on. Well, we'll be right back with Hayward. Oh, we'll be right back with sportspredictions.net. Just so excited. Renton Parks.
Brian, you, let's see. You were 0 for 2 with 2 walks in the second game.
Yep.
And you were...
It's the worst fucking website.
1 for 2 with a walk in the first game.
Yep. Good OBP there.
Yeah. I was 4 for 7. Booyah! 2 doubles. Booyah! I was so mad. I had a hustle double, and then fucking who was hitting behind me?
I think it
It was
was
Kyle, and Kyle walked, and I was like, "What was the point?"
Again, it was for your
For my
OPS.
slugging, yeah.
They moved sports. What the fuck did they move them? Oh, God. Renamed them athletics. Real nice, guys.
What?
Jesus.
Oh, and for Renton?
Yeah. So they renamed it athletics on the landing page and then call it sports on the. It's so dumb. And I gotta click like 14 different pages just. To
Oh my god. Who owns a bird? Sounded like somebody was squeaking.
Are we Olympic or Cascade? We are Olympic. What day is tomorrow?
Wednesday
Tomorrow
is the 28th.
Tuesday.
Wednesday is the 28th.
We play late at Big Liberty.
Oh.
Against number 5, which is Crush. Awesome.
We've already beat them twice this year.
Sure have. And then we do have a week off. Funny. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. SportsPredictions.net with Brian. How's it going, Brian?
It's going well. Going well. Our sports predictions at gmail.com. NBA draft was last week. We hit the first 3. We picked first 3, Victor Wembanyama went 1, Brandon Miller went 2 to Charlotte, and then Scoot Henderson went 3 to Portland. Scoot Henderson. We did think that Portland was going to make a move, either to get someone like Zion Williamson, anybody out there, and they did not. They stood pat. So this is more likely that Dame is going to be traded. I still don't think it's going to happen, but they now have 3 starting guards, 2 of which are young, so they might want to go the youth movement. Number 4 pick, actually number 4 and number 5 were twins, and we picked the wrong twin at number 4.
Oh no.
Their name, you think Scoot Henderson. This guy's name, who's drafted number 4, his name is literally Amen. Amen Thompson and Ozzier Thompson went 4 and 5. We thought Amen would go a little lower. Biggest surprise to us, I think it was the biggest surprise to most people, Cam Whitmore, who we had projected at number 7, went all the way to number 20. So we had him being drafted by the Wizards at number 7, and he fell all the way to the 20th, which was the Houston Rockets, who were thinking about taking him at 4. So Houston definitely was a big winner. Another big winner was Utah. They got 2 of our favorite players in the draft. The kid from Central Florida and then Keontae George from Baylor. 2 really good picks for Utah. So yeah, overall did pretty well. We nailed most of the players in the first round, but not necessarily where they were going. One quick shout out, Julian Strother went number 29. So another Gonzaga player drafted in the first round. That's pretty cool. And Washington State had a player drafted. Number 40 overall was Muhammad Gay. So a couple of local kids being drafted as well, which was pretty cool. MLB still going on.
Not drafted.
Wasn't surprising. He's going to have a really good career in Europe, though, man, if he wants it. We're, of course, talking about Drew Timme. And honestly, if he doesn't want to go play basketball overseas, he could probably step right into a broadcasting role and wouldn't miss a beat. So he's got options. MLB, man, the Reds still, we keep picking them to lose because it's got to happen eventually. And finally happened on Sunday after a 12-game winning streak.
It's pretty cool that the Reds and the Athletics can go on runs of multiple games and the Mariners can't.
It just goes to show you that baseball is so hard to predict. This season more than most, but in general, it's just a hard sport. Usually we rely on pitchers, and pitchers have not been um, the good pitchers have not been doing as well as they usually do. So yeah, that's it. Next week we've got baseball. We're probably not going to be doing anything on the NHL draft just because don't know anything about it. Might do some wild free agency things for the NHL, but other than that, it's pretty much just going to be baseball.
Nice. Well, thanks, Brian. We'll be right back with Hey, What You Got?
I didn't get my lock in, but
Oh.
my lock was no, don't worry about it. My lock was Connor Bedard going number 1.
Oh, you should do it.
That's all good.
I can splice it around.
No, it's okay.
The YouTubes will know.
Ready?
Yep.
Welcome back, everybody. My favorite segment. Hey, what you got? Hey, Brian, what you got?
So the Men's College World Series ended today. It was LSU against Florida for the title, and the way that college baseball does their best player of the year is they do the Golden Spikes, and they narrow it down to 3 finalists. And it just so happens that all 3 finalists were actually playing in the College World Series. 2 for LSU, 1 for Florida. So that was pretty cool. LSU won in extra innings on Saturday. It was a great game. Then Florida won 24-4 yesterday.
Jesus.
Broke the record for the most runs scored in a Men's College World Series game. And then LSU today came back and won 18-4.
Jesus.
So it lost a little bit of luster the last 2 games. But congrats to LSU. The 7th national title for them. So that's pretty good.
Did Skeens end up pitching in the game today?
Skeens, he didn't have to. So I don't think he pitched at all in this series. He was going to be used in the bullpen if they needed to, but they didn't need him. So the kid who won the Golden Spikes, Dylan Cruz for LSU, he had a .421 batting average. He got on base every single game for the team this year, and they played 68, 69 games.
Jeez.
And he got on base every time. So he is projected to be a top 3 pick. Paul Skeens, like you mentioned, is projected to be a top 3 pick. And then the third player who was up for the Golden Spikes, his name's Wyatt Langford from Florida. He's going to be a top 3 pick in next year's draft. Hey, Thomas, what you got?
Just a little golf note. I know how much you guys love talking about women's golf. Not sure if you guys have seen. Have you seen Rose Zhang? You guys read about this?
No, I haven't.
So it's a young woman. She's 20 years old. Earlier this year, won her 2nd consecutive Division I NCAA title, and then turned pro, and then won her first pro tournament the next week.
Wow.
And then so she competed over the last weekend here in the PGA Championship, the ladies, the LPGA Championship, and tied for 8th, which was a pretty good finish. And some people are starting to whisper about a young kind of killer instinct phenom type golfer. I'm not going to say the guy's name because you don't want to compare to GOAT level people, but some people are saying she's got some Tiger vibes with the way that she is kind of ruthless in winning the first tournament in the playoff, and then having a really good tournament in her first major. So it's pretty cool. Just another kind of young star to keep an eye on in a sport that's otherwise doesn't have huge kind of viewership and following. So it's just kind of interesting.
Nice.
Yeah. Nate, what you got?
So, been having a running conversation with my baseball text group about
Which
Shohei.
we are not part of, by the way.
Yeah, he doesn't invite us to the cool groups.
A different group of people.
How many former players in that group?
Baseball players?
Yeah.
1 college player, 1 pro player.
I'm trying to see if
six
if
softball
I
players.
know who's in the group.
Probably. And as we started talking Shohei's contract, right? And then we started talking about numbers and thinking about stuff we've talked about before where, he could easily be a $30 million a year pitcher and a $30 million a year hitter. He is going to be 29. And I think
At this point, by
gonna
the way, he's
see-
almost a $40 million a year hitter.
yeah, I think you're going to see some really interesting numbers, right? A lot of people are saying 10 years at 50 million a year, so $500 million contract. My thought was, how sustainable is Shohei long term playing both ways, especially when he gets into 32, 33, 34 years old, right? And so
You have no track record there, so you have no
track record,
idea.
yeah. No idea.
You can't. I mean, you. There's literally nothing that you can base it off of.
And so my thoughts are, we've seen some really interesting contracts come out. You see the contract for Julio.
Jesus Christ,
Why-
he's slugging .623.
Why wouldn't you say, okay, Shohei, we're going to give you a 3-year, $300 million contract. If you achieve these numbers, we will give you a 3-year extension for $300 million. So 6 years, $600 million. And then say if you reach these numbers, you get another 3 years at $50 million, So the player can say, I'm getting a $650 million contract. The team has an out. They're paying a boatload of effing money, right? But he's going to be worth it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a player you can't overpay, and it has nothing to do with his performance on the field.
Yeah.
He will pay for himself
marketing,
in all the accessories.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Nate, I actually do think he is going to sign a shorter term deal than what most people think. I think it will be maybe 2, 3, or 4 years. I don't think it's going to be $100 million a year, but I do think it'll be 3-year, maybe 150, 3-year, maybe 180, something like that. That wouldn't surprise me at all. If he does something like that. So that actually was exactly what I was going to say into this conversation.
Interesting, yeah.
How many teams do you think are going to have are going to make a legitimate offer, not have a legitimate shot? How many teams do you think will make an honest run at him?
5.
I think it's more than that.
Well, he's
I
already
think-
told the Yankees he won't play for him.
I still think they're going to try and make a run, though. I think they're gonna. I think the Yankees.
And he won't play for Boston either, right?
I don't think Boston's gonna make a run.
I
I
mean,
think the teams that are gonna make the run, the
it's
Yankees, the Mets,
Angels,
the Cubs,
Dodgers.
Angels, Dodgers. I think the Mariners are gonna make a run. I think the Cubs
Padres.
are gonna try, and the Padres. I think the Giants.
Giants,
Every
yeah.
team on the West Coast except for Oakland.
Well, the reason I ask, right, and Nate, you mentioned Julio's contract. The higher the number of teams that make a run at him and think about offering him some money, right? Even if every single team comes in with like a Julio contract or a 3+3+3 or a like a 1 year with player options every year, something, right? Like even if every team comes in with something creative, some asshole is just gonna back the Brinks truck up. And they're going to give him the long-term big money guaranteed. And then all of this funny business that we're talking about that's genuinely interesting and probably appropriate is going to be irrelevant.
He
But do
didn't
you
take the biggest contract coming into the league.
Yeah. Do you think that maybe he wants a shorter term contract? He's like you said, he's 20. He'll be 29. Maybe he signs a 2-year, $130 million contract, and then hits free agency again at 31.
There's no way someone will give him, for a player of that talent level to not leverage the fact that he could possibly have a fully guaranteed contract. It's impossible, right? You're not going to live in a world where Manny Machado has $350 million guaranteed and Shohei Ohtani has 140. Like, we don't live in that world.
That's why I said, like, get crazy. 3 years, $300 million. And then you have 3 years, $300 million on the backside of that. And you can make the numbers accessible, right? Like they don't have to be out of this world.
I wondered if you give him 2 contracts, right? You give him 2 contracts and you put some incentives on both. Like, here's your pitching contract and here's your hitting contract, right? And here's what we'll pay you here and here's what we'll pay you here. And if you're doing them both, sweet. Here's all the money, right? But at some point, he's going to be better as just one, right? You have to imagine. I don't know. It's hard to say. We still are thinking about him in the construct of how we've thought about everyone else, and it's the wrong way to think about him.
Yeah,
he's
it's gonna be really ridiculous, but I'm here for it. I'm excited.
Throw a number out.
He is...
Brian, you think you really want to hitch yourself up to 140 over 2?
I think it is going to end up being something short term. I really do. I think he's going to sign somewhere where he can win a World Series in the next 2 years. And then after he has a ring. So that's why I think he is going to end up going to the Dodgers, or the team most likely to win a World Series in the next 2 years. And then if he wins it, he's got the ring on his resume. Then he can go for the money wherever it is.
Kevin Durant.
Exactly. Whether it's or Kawhi Leonard.
What about
like that?
300 over 4 with like some type of combination of club option, player option, incentive based, 300 over 6 on the back end. So he gets to some type of like 600 over 10, but it's like split up in 2 sections. I don't know. That's kind of where I am.
That's probably going to be what ends up happening. But I think just for me, I think it would be great if he only signs a 2-year deal, and then we're doing this all again in 2 years when he has done it, when he has done this even more. Then the other thing,
or blown his arm out again.
See, and this is the other thing that I basically was going to play devil's advocate against myself here, which it always makes for great radio. But since we've never seen it before, in 2 years, you're right. Maybe he could have, an injury to his arm or something like that. So there's so many unknowns with him that he probably should take the guaranteed money. I just think it'd be cool for him to do it for 2 more years and then get his 10-year deal. Because even if he gets a 2-year deal, someone's going to give him 10-year, $500 million in 2 years anyway.
I think it's going to be I think it's going to be touted as a 10-year, $600 million contract, and it'll be broken up with team outs and stuff. I think you have to do it that way. And there's been players, there's been really great players like Goldschmidt and that haven't taken their outs, like Machado did. So you never know. Hey Thomas, what you got?
I don't remember.
Nice.
My hummingbirds are gone.
Oh.
Yeah. Man, like our feeders are like topped up. Like no one's had a drink out of the feeder in 3 or 4 days. So I think they've migrated on, which is too bad. It's nice having hummingbirds in the yard.
Definitely not what I thought you were going to say with the Hummers are gone.
Oh, what do you think a Hummer is?
I thought you were going to say that you don't see Hummers on the road anymore. Honestly, that's what I thought you were going to say.
I thought you were going sexual, but...
Wow. A different response for all 3 of us. I'm not sure that my random topic during the podcast would be the fact that I don't get blowies anymore. So, Nate, I'm not sure why you thought that was going to happen.
That's why I was surprised by it.
But yeah, just a little note from the yard here. I got no more Hummers, man. It's a bummer.
Do they migrate?
Yeah, they're
I didn't know that.
As a general kind of species, they are migratory. If you have a yard or an area that's like really, really friendly enough, they don't always move on, and sometimes you can get them to nest. But yeah, they are migratory.
Because I've seen them in the fall before, so maybe I'll catch them on the backside.
No, I mean they're not migratory like geese. Like 100% of the hummingbirds don't go from this latitude to that latitude. Like it's just like if you imagine a map, there's like Hummers everywhere, and it kind of just like shifts down a little bit seasonally. And so, yeah, I mean, some people have Hummers in the yard all year round because they don't need to migrate because they have everything they need. But yeah, either something happened or they've migrated. But either way, they're not in the yard anymore, which is a bummer. Brian, what you got?
So one of my favorite weekends as a kid, in fact, my favorite weekend of the year when I was a kid, actually took place this weekend over in Spokane, Hoop Fest, which is the world's largest outdoor 3-on-3 basketball tournament, and it takes place in Spokane.
Pretty awesome.
I've played in it every year except for 2 since I was 8 years old, and this year is one of the years that I didn't play. So it was sad, but couldn't swing it. Couldn't get over there this year. I have friends that play in it every year. Some guys I play basketball with actually won their bracket.
Nice.
So that's pretty cool. I have won Hoop Fest once in the 25 years I've played it. I finished second 5 times. So it was pretty cool finally getting the win. It was about 5-6 years ago. I love the weekend, man. It's just they shut down the streets of Spokane and literally it's just basketball on the courts. And it's as you're getting older, it's tougher and tougher to play. I remember last year, I played 2 games on Saturday and I literally could not get out of bed. Like I took a nap after the game and I woke up and I could not get out of bed. My legs hurt so bad. But that's probably because I'm out of shape. Hopefully I'll play in it again. I'm hoping next year, but there's just too much stuff going on right now. But to everybody who played, I hope you had a good time.
Yeah, Spokane does a couple really fun things throughout the year. Bloomsday, Lilac Parade, Hoop Fest. All of it's been really, really great. When I was there, they were like must things to do if you lived in the community. And Hoop Fest was always a really, really good time, especially if you were younger playing in it. And you might not always win and you might not do well, but it's still really fun. You get 3 games guaranteed still.
Yep.
Yeah. So you're out there for 3 games and you meet people and you get to hang out. And, when you're younger, you just go run around and watch games and drink soda and act dumb. So it's pretty fun. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, Brian.
Find the 8-foot hoop when you're like, 4th, 5th grade and dunk on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Thomas, what you got?
Well, I did take over Nate's note about the Ballon d'Or, which is the award given annually to the best footballer in the world. We were going to talk about that a little bit. Nate, it's not awarded until October. Why did you put it in the show sheet?
Oh, man, people were talking about it when they were talking about Messi with Miami.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, every year that he's alive, right? I mean, he's going to be like, every year that Bobby Bonilla gets paid, every year that Leo Messi is alive, like he'll have a shot at the Ballon d'Or, even when he's like sitting on his porch telling people to get off his grass. So yeah, theoretically, he could win it this year. It's much more likely to be Haaland, having set the EPL record for goals. Shout out Brian. And, winning a treble with Man City. Messi did have a phenomenal year with PSG, and PSG, of course, won their league, and he is coming off a World Cup title, but with the announcement not coming until October, the World Cup memories will be faded by then, and he will have spent the summer playing in MLS, so it's unlikely. I don't think he'll take it this year, but yeah, I guess we'll see how the summer rolls on. Nate, what you got?
So watching Coachella make their run, there was a lot of talk about the value of that in hockey, in having your minor leaguers make long runs in the playoffs. And I didn't realize something, that once the NHL season is over, if they have a team that's going far in the playoffs, they'll send some of their specialist coaches down to work with the players.
Oh, cool.
And I think that's really, really valuable, right? And so it got me thinking, like, which leagues is it most valuable in? And just because of recency bias, I feel like NHL is probably the most valuable to get that extra playing time. But like NFL, does having a championship pedigree player coming from NCAAs make a difference? Like in basketball, does having a NCAA championship player coming into the team, they don't like value at all? There's like is there any value to that coming into a league, having won championships at the previous level? Like they talked a lot about it with Carmelo Anthony, I don't know, just was interesting.
I think the NFL is, and I think the perfect example of that is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow won the national championship with LSU, and then put that into a first round, being the number 1 overall pick with Cincinnati. You could say the same thing about Cam Newton. with Auburn. I do think that the NFL does value those big games because a lot of teams don't have as many big games. And so when you see a quarterback like Bryce Young, playing in a pressure situation, or CJ Stroud, if you listen to the draft pundits talk about CJ Stroud, the number one thing that they brought up was that game against Georgia that he lost. And they were so impressed with the way he played. And they carried that into the number 2 pick. So I do think in the NFL, it is weighted. The
NBA. In that example, Brian, it's weighted in the evaluation process, but does it end up having a profoundly and noticeably beneficial impact on a career?
Well, what's the question that Nate's asking? Is it that, or is it on the front end with drafting it, or is it on the back end with a career? I took it as it was I took it as coming in on the front end. You're right with the college basketball. It is not as common as it was in the early 2000s, not only with Carmelo Anthony at Syracuse, but with Emeka Okafor and UConn, with Joakim Noah in Florida, with Anthony Davis in Kentucky. The last few years, you're right, there haven't been. I mean, and this year, the number 1 pick wasn't even from college basketball. So I think they are kind of shying away from that. And I think another reason for that is a lot of players are one and done in the NBA, right? Yeah. And so where you value experience during the college game, you don't value experience as much once they get to the NBA. You value potential in the NBA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it could be a little bit. I think it could be a little bit different in hockey. It is really interesting in hockey. I don't know if it's because every playoff series is 7 games in the NHL, or if just like the composition and the rhythm and the cadence to a playoff series is different. But also don't forget that a lot of the juniors will play at international level as well. And so, for some players like Matty Beniers, I know he had a huge amount of collegiate experience in big games, but he was also playing internationally. And so you come into the NHL then, and you're able to have a kind of a cooler head because you've been in big games before. So I don't know. I feel like on like a career impact level, I think it could be hockey maybe could be one of the biggest it gives them the most help, having that sort of experience as a youth. You feel like baseball players grow so much during their time in the minor leagues that it's like, if I was throwing in Little League and then I had the proper coaching through the minor leagues, I'd be just as good as a guy, like Skeens or someone, ignoring the talent or assuming same talent. It's an interesting question.
Yeah. Brian, what you got?
One thing that came out of the NBA draft a couple days before was Chris Paul was traded from the Suns to the Wizards in the Bradley Beal trade. The Wizards then flipped him to the Golden State Warriors, making Chris Paul a member of the Mike Piazza All-Stars as a person who either never played or played very little for a team. And now it's going to be really interesting to see what the Warriors do, because they have Chris Paul, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, 3 guards over the age of 30, none of whom defend very well. Chris Paul and Steph Curry especially. Klay used to, but with all the knee injuries, he's lost a step or two. And I was listening to a podcast today that actually was talking about Klay getting traded. And so I just thought it would be interesting that this might be the end of the Warriors dynasty. And, it comes on the heels of perhaps the greatest player in the NBA today to never win a title. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, Thomas, what you got?
It's just a little personal note, little kind of self-awareness, inspirational thing. Let me get up on my soapbox here. Ruts are hard to get out of, and we all get in them. So we've both been in some ruts here in my household over the last couple of months. I think it's always tough coming off the back of COVID, and we all have things going on in our life that'll push us into a rut. So just to share some personal success stories as a reminder to those of you that may be in a rut yourself. Small victories can be really important. So a couple of Fridays ago, I took off from work 30 minutes early. No big deal. But I wanted to be home in time just to do a hike after work. You don't have to just come home and sit on the couch every single day. There's lots of stuff, especially now that the sun's staying up quite a bit longer. You can get home, you can get some stuff done. You can get home and go for a jog or do something in the yard. You don't just have to stay in your rut every single day. So we're having some fun at my house, exploring some weeknight things to do. And if you're feeling kind of ruddy yourself, I'd encourage you to do the same.
It's great.
Yeah, Thomas, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I've been in a work and wedding. I mean, I don't want to call it a rut because this is such a one-off
for me, a
special
rut
occasion,
a rut is, it doesn't have to be bad. It's just like habitual repetition, and
Yes,
and then like you just said, you didn't go to Hoop Fest, and I know you have other things that are scheduled, but like when you're in those ruts, you don't. The self-care is lost because you're just in like automatic habitual mode. You got to do some self-care.
Yeah, and so I did the exact same thing with self-care where me and Jeannie actually went on a date night, which we haven't done in a while.
Nice.
And we went to a new restaurant in Linwood, and I want to give a quick shout out actually to this restaurant. It's called Pier 88. It has been open less than a week, and it's kind of like a crab pot where you pick, the mussels, clams, shrimp, whatever you want, and then they put it in a bowl for you, and they give you the bib and everything. And man, it was fantastic. So I know there's another Pier 88 location somewhere in Seattle. I highly recommend going and checking it out.
Nice. Well, thanks for sharing, Thomas.
Yeah.
We'll be right back with Would You Rather. All right.
Yeah, man. I know exactly what you're talking about, Thomas. It's just you feel like you're stuck in a time loop, right?
Yeah.
Welcome back, everybody. I have the Would You Rather again this week. And it's, I was out of town last week, so I went to some interesting food places, and it got me thinking, would you rather food options? But I also have two compelling ones at the end, just because it's fun. So, would you rather egg roll or burrito?
I'm going burrito because there's a lot more options. You've got breakfast burritos with bacon and sausage. You've got, regular burritos with pork or chicken or beef or tongue if that's your fancy. I think there's a lot more options and variety with burritos, so that is my answer.
That's a solid answer. I didn't even think about breakfast burritos.
You're gonna have to repeat the question. I was not paying attention.
Would you rather egg roll or burrito?
Burrito.
Burrito.
Yeah, I mean,
I love egg rolls.
Burrito.
I do love egg rolls, but
yeah, but burrito.
Oh no, you obviously weren't listening.
Yeah.
'Cause
No,
did say burrito.
I listened to everything. I just wasn't listening to Nate.
Thanks. Okay. Second one. Would you rather a Japanese dumpling or some variety of Italian stuffed noodle like a tortellini or a ravioli?
Okay. This question is not fair for me because my all-time favorite meal is my grandmother's homemade ravioli.
Mm.
Whether it's stuffed with cheese or stuffed with meat and spinach, there is nothing on this planet that will ever come close to my grandmother's homemade ravioli. So it's definitely the Italian option.
I do love Asian dumplings, and this is a difficult one, but
I think so too.
I gotta go stuffed Italian as well. I mean, you're talking about gnocchi and all that.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm leaning towards the dumplings, Asian dumplings. Again, for the variety.
Can't blame you.
Yeah, because you can do cabbage, you can do pork, I mean, I had
Uh,
some
that-
lamb ones the other day. Like
That's a really good
really
point.
amazing.
Yeah, you are going to get a lot more variety, whereas the Italian ones, that's going to be almost exclusively like dinner,
Chicken,
entree,
yeah.
meat type stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I was toting variety with the first option, but as soon as you said Italian, my
Nostalgia.
mind immediately went to my childhood.
Well, I think I know Brian's answer on this next one then. Would you rather casserole or lasagna?
Casserole.
I'm done with you two.
Tater tot hot dish, bro.
No, lasagna.
Is macaroni and cheese, baked macaroni and cheese, is that a casserole? Or is that just baked macaroni and cheese?
I mean,
your
lasagna
favorite?
is a casserole.
Technically, you're right. It's anything that has
You're right.
like layers and like a crust on top,
Mhm.
basically, right?
Mhm.
So technically, you're right. But
I mean, a shepherd's pie is a casserole.
Mm-hmm.
God, this is the whole.
This goes back-
All over again.
Yeah.
What was that website?
The cube rule.
Oh my god! Shout out to us, however many episodes ago. If you don't know the cube rule as it relates to food, I'll get you the URL
That's
here.
awesome. That's great.
But again, Nate, you're absolutely
Nostalgia.
right. It's back to nostalgia for me, and it's lasagna all day.
Yeah. There's
Cuberule.com.
There's so many options for casseroles, you know, but I mean, there's something about just like a really good lasagna that has like just before burned cheese on the top, like that, like walk that line, and it's like there's nothing better because like the edges of the noodles get crispy. Fuck, something about a good lasagna. I agree with you, Brian. Lasagna. I think casseroles
What?
are fine, but they don't have that gravitas. Let's say.
Tater tot hot dish.
No, it's wonderful. It's delicious. I need to make you my tater tot Mexican casserole sometime.
That sounds good.
It sounds racist.
It's not racist. Mexican are people. It is a culture.
I used to love when that first season that Arlo White was commentating the Sounders games. It's common for soccer announcers to use a player's nationality to describe them just because they're constantly doing play-by-play. And I think it was you, Nate. We were just like watching a game one day, and I think you looked over at me and said, like, it sounds so racist when he calls players Mexicans. It's like, they're from Mexico.
Yeah, with the British accent.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of Mexico,
Mm.
when you are at a Mexican restaurant and you have a choice of beverage, would you rather Mexican Coke or Warritos?
Something
Can
with
I
less
choose-
sugar. But
Can I choose a Mexican beer?
Sure.
I mean, Pacifico.
Oh, Pacifico all day long. By the way,
Modelo.
I just was having a conversation with my dad today, and I think I'm getting a keg of Pacifico for the
Ooh.
wedding.
Oh.
Since we're having Mexican food,
It's-
it only makes
I'm
sense.
It's
gonna
so
have to
good.
Uber home.
It's so good.
How much is an Uber out to Snoqualmie from where at? Probably not that much. $50?
I'm sure. Where you live in Issaquah?
Mhm.
I'm sure Kyle or Haley talk to them because they're driving back.
Okay.
They might be able to swing by and give you a ride.
I think if it was beer, I would go Modelo, but
I'm with
that's just
you.
Me, yeah.
I'm with you, Thomas. Man, there's nothing better than an ice cold Pacifico.
So
Mhm.
I will say, so Pacifico for me, like if I'm eating Mexican food, I love a Pacifico. I have gone through some years where Tecate was my dedicated outdoor beer, whether I was doing yard work or golfing, and
Mhm.
that is also fantastic.
It's a good one. Yeah.
There's no such thing as a
Tecate
bad
in a
Mexican
can.
beer.
Yeah. All right, this one's for Thomas. Would you rather tequila
Yes.
or gin?
Oh, why?
Why is that just for Thomas?
No, this is a Thomas inspired one, but it's for
Oh.
I mean, am I? You have to give me an occasion.
Hanging out in the backyard of barbecue.
Gin and tonic. Yeah, gin and tonic.
Karaoke at a bar.
Huh?
Karaoke at a bar.
Karaoke. Yeah, I'd leave.
Sounders winning a championship.
Yeah, tequila for sure. No, a good sip of tequila is so good. But if it's the middle of the day It's got to be a gin and tonic. Famously, I had a work party years ago where like we closed down our company for half a day and we went and like played kickball. It was pretty fun. I had a gin and tonic in my 32-ounce Nalgene and no one knew. It was fantastic. I was like running the bases, just like chugging my gin and tonic. It's wonderful.
If I'm going any alcohol, it's whiskey. But if those are my only two options, I can't do gin. So I'm going tequila.
Well, you stole the thunder on my next one. Would you rather whiskey or vodka?
Oh, whiskey.
Oh, not vodka.
Yeah.
Whiskey for sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Then would you rather, Brian, whiskey or tequila?
Are we talking mixed drinks or just straight?
Yeah, whatever. Whatever strikes your fancy.
Mixed drinks, I'm going tequila. Straight, I'm going whiskey.
Thomas, whiskey or gin?
I mean, they're. I have started mixing whiskey. I mean, if it's the desert island question, it's gin. But I would miss whiskey. It's a seasonal thing for me too. I go brown in the when the weather's darker. I love like whiskey ginger on an airplane.
I enjoy a good whiskey sour, man.
Oh man, I had the best whiskey sour down in Arizona last time I was down there.
Did it have the egg white in it?
Mm-hmm.
So good.
So good. Yeah, whiskey wins every time for me. All right. A couple of thought-provoking questions. Would you rather fight a chicken to the death every time you get into a car, or an orangutan to the death once a year, but you get a sword?
Chicken. I'm not fucking with the orangutan.
I'm going with the orangutan because I get in a car a lot.
Oh my God,
And I
Brian,
don't wanna
you'd
tangle with the chicken.
get murdered. The orangutan would murder you.
I have a sword.
Yeah,
I didn't say how long the
The
sword
orangutan
was.
doesn't give a fuck. Are you proficient in sword?
I'm fighting an orangutan once a year, so I will be.
Fuck.
Will I
Where do you
know when
find
the
these
orangutan-
questions?
You get
Will I
practice.
know when the orangutan attack is coming?
Surprise!
Yeah, it's scheduled.
It's scheduled. It's like Tuesday. Hey, you want to go to dinner? Nah, I got my orangutan tonight.
Tuesday, October 3rd. All right, last one. Would you rather be an artist or a scientist?
I like how that was the first thought-provoking question.
I
by
just
the
had
way.
to. I just had to get you going. I just had to get you juiced up. So,
I
would
love
you
it.
rather, artist or a scientist?
Question.
Yeah.
For artist, does musician count?
Yes.
Yeah.
Then I would go artist.
I can't decide between the two. For me, obviously I'm much more on the math and science side, and so there's so many different scientific disciplines that would be fascinating to be expert in, and I can enjoy that and see that. But on the flip side, because I'm not artistic, being able to do that would, oh man, I would love it and be so fantastic.
I've always wanted to be like a good sculptor or painter.
Yeah. Yeah, like a couple of my dad's buddies, when we go on the bird hunting trip, they'll like get hammered and sit on the porch and like play guitar and sing songs. I'm just like, fuck, like that's dying. Like, well, I guess there's plenty of TikTokers that do that, but yeah, I don't know. I'm jealous of that skill set.
Yep, mine would definitely be artist with the musical instrument. I don't know what musical instrument.
I would do piano.
I'd like to do something like Thomas said, where you could like be outside.
Yeah.
So I'd like to do something mobile. Whether it's like you know what instrument would actually be awesome is a violin or a cello.
Cello's pretty big.
A cello
Ukulele?
is big.
If I could pick one, it would be ukulele, because you'd get like casual cute points. It's like like you got to get your guitar out and do a fucking concert. You just like.
Well, like I said in a podcast a while back, I mean, if the harmonica would be it for me.
There you go. Yeah. Nice.
Nice.
Well, thanks for joining me on that Would You Rather quest.
Yeah. I got
Right
one.
back. Ooh.
I got a couple. What were we going to be right back with? Isn't this the end of the
I
show?
don't know. You're right. Hold on. Let me reset that. Well, thanks for going on the Would You Rather. Thomas, do we have any questions?
Yeah, I got a couple.
Brought to us by?
Brought to you by me.
So this is the closing question segment.
Yeah.
Perfect.
No, I just was wondering if there's a TV show or a movie from your youth that you wish was accessible to you now. I know in these days, like streaming and stuff, almost everything is out there, but there's a few that are tough to find.
Well, I talked about it a couple weeks ago. Oh, sorry, Brian.
Oh, I was just going to say, okay, so there was a movie, and I don't even remember how many times I watched it, or even really what it was about, but I remember I loved it as a kid, and it was called The Stamp Travelers. Have either of you ever heard of this movie? Yeah, it was literally about like people going into stamps and then getting mailed and going to different places. Like it was insane.
What a cute concept for like a kids thing.
Like Indian Cupboard.
I loved that movie, and it came out in 1988, and it was just something that I loved as a kid, and I used to watch the VHS all the time. We didn't have the actual VHS. We recorded it on TV, as you did back then, and then I think I wore that VHS out, and I guarantee you can't find it anywhere now.
Nice. I said a couple weeks ago, Homicide: Life on the Streets. It was a really, really well done show in the 90s, and it's just nowhere to be found. But like when you first said it, my brain went to a different place, and I immediately thought of MASH. But MASH is accessible, but it's something that I would always watch, and I tend to go back every couple of years. And you know, when my wife's dad was dying, him and I would watch MASH a lot together. And I forgot, like that show is so good. Every time I like drift away from it, I come back to it, I'm just like, wow, I really had something special.
I have some like negative memories of MASH just because like my mom was always watching it when I was a kid, and you know, I have a couple I don't know, negative associations with that type of stuff. So it's a little thing I kind of have to get over. Like Matlock and Murder, She Wrote and MASH. It's like all those shows that were on at the same time. It's just like, anyway. But yeah, MASH is a really, really good one. Going all the way on the other side, a lot of the Mel Brooks stuff is hard to find, like streaming or anywhere. And so like a lot of times when we go garage sailing, I'll like buy them on DVD, like Spaceballs and Men in Tights and stuff. A lot of those older movies.
Yeah. Nice.
What are you guys binging right now?
Suits.
Manifest. Talked about it last week. The one where
we did touch that last week.
Yeah.
Man.
Comes down 5 years later.
Yeah, that's crazy. I might have to look at that one. That sounds interesting. But yeah, Suits is for me.
And that's next on my list. What about you, Thomas? What are you binging?
Yeah, I put this on here because we like talked about it last week and I totally forgot, so I've kind of asked a repeat question. But yeah, so we did restart Killing Eve, but they pulled it from Hulu, so we're just waiting for it to pop up somewhere else so we can finish it up. So we're going through Star Trek Next Generation right now.
Oh, sweet. That's a good would you rather, all the Star Treks.
Next Gen.
I'm not fluent.
Wow.
Next Gen.
Never watched the movies with Chris Pine.
Cool. We got any randos, or are we calling it there?
I got some random questions. It's actually brought to you by Yahoo.com today.
Whoa.
And
Old
so what
Yahoo.
I would like is for you guys to pick a number between 1 and 250.
Goodness. You go for it, Nate.
45.
45. Have you ever lied about your age?
No.
I don't think
Never?
so.
Never.
I mean, I have, trying to get into a bar, trying to get into an R-rated movie, but not since I turned 21.
Yeah, I don't think so. I wasn't drinking before I was 21, and I wasn't going to the movies trying to lie. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I'm sure I've made a joke or two here and there, but like never purposefully for the purpose of like circumventing a rule. Interesting.
Thomas, you want to pick a number?
Yeah, 222.
Ooh, all the
Go
way
to the
down
end.
here.
I want to listen to Brian scroll all the way down.
This is actually an interesting one. What is your least favorite memory from high school?
Oh. I got it. I went to high school in the generation, it was probably the last generation where hazing was still allowed. And I went to a very small high school. And so you were, given a swirly or thrown into the showers with all your clothes on in the middle of the day, or, something else happened. And they tried to give me a swirly and I fought back, which I didn't realize was a no-no because that just put a target on your back. And so during basketball, right after basketball practice, they threw me out of the locker room in just my jockstrap. And I was like in the gym and there was everybody like ending, the sports playing and then volleyball girls and people lifting weights and stuff. And I had to like bang on the door and yeah, it was.
Hang on, I got a question. You wore a jockstrap playing basketball?
Mm-hmm. I got big old balls, man. They go around.
Oh my god.
Yep. So that happened to me. I didn't like it.
For me, it was losing in the regional playoffs for baseball my senior year. Because I realized, I didn't play much, but I was still on the team. But it made me realize I was never putting on that uniform again, and I was never playing organized baseball again, and so that made me very, very sad. So, still remember to this day that bus ride back from the Spokane Indian Stadium, and getting into the locker room and not wanting to take the jersey off.
Yeah.
It's an interesting question. And now that we're quite a bit older and we have kind of updated perspectives on where we've been and what we've gone through and how we dealt with it, I think if you would have asked us this question, 5 or 10 or 15 years ago, you might have gotten a different answer at each time of asking. I think for me, the thing that I remember with the least amount of fondness is some of the guilt that I felt not like really putting any effort in at all. I think in a lot of my classes, I just kind of skated. In my senior year, there wasn't a physics class that I could take at my high school. And so like twice a week, I went to a different high school and did like a night class, and I like fucked off and never did the homework and never learned it properly. And I don't know, I wish I would have been, more focused. I think that would have prepared me a lot better for college. I think the fact that I fucked off and didn't pay the price kind of empowered me to fuck off at school, at college, and higher prices to pay there. So
yeah, I put about the same amount of effort into college as I did to high school, and I did way better in college. I don't know why.
Yeah, I definitely put more effort into college, especially my first couple years when I was an engineering major. So I had to put in a lot more time, and then I realized I just couldn't think abstractly enough to be an engineer. And then I went into broadcasting, and then it was right back to where I was in high school.
Interesting.
Yeah, good question. Well, that's the show.
That's the show.
That was a good second half of that show. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Some good topics.
Yeah.
Good conversation. Well, thanks for shifting to a Monday. I think this is going to be our regular cadence from now on.
Yeah, it was
kind of nice.
It was my request, and then I got off of work today, and I was like, fuck. But I think having the back-to-back commitments is a little bit tougher. So I'm excited to have a little bit of a free night tomorrow before we get into softball Wednesday. So
yeah,
appreciate you, boys.
Yeah. Well, talk to y'all later. Shout out, Brad. 4th of July coming up. have a safe, happy 4th of July, everybody.
Don't blow your fingers off.
Some barbecues in.
Don't blow your
small
wieners
things.
off.
Yeah, don't do that.
Give my dog some Xanax.
Oof. Yes.
Yeah,
Be
go out.
careful with your pets. Every year there's a sob story. Give them some love.
All right. Nice talking to you, buddies.
Yep. Love you, boys. See ya.
Oh my God, I didn't fucking record it.
You know, he realized that as soon as he went and reached for the turn off the recording button. You can rip it off YouTube. We're streaming.
It's not the first time you've had to do that, Nate.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure at the very top, Nate, can you go look at row 2?
yes, I know. Very excited.
Oh,
Bitch.
it's fantastic.
This means I'm busy tomorrow night.
Oh, that's a bummer.
It's fine. Maybe it'll pop up early. Thanks for doing the YouTube as
Yeah.
the backup.
Yeah. Love you, boys. Have a good night.
Night, night.
Night. Say bye to